Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the OffGridEnclave. Today we will be having a look at an issue that plagues quite a lot of off-grid dwellers. The common issue is quite simple: how do I keep food cold or frozen? So let's dive right into this and have a look. It does not really matter if you're living alone or with your family. For most climate zones and areas, it is very important to have the ability to keep your food or medicaments cold. Let's start this whole thing by getting one of the main misconceptions out of the way. Unfortunately, many people approach this issue from the wrong angle. They start calculating the power usage of the fridge, then adjust the battery storage to accommodate those needs. Furthermore, adjust the solar panels to feed that all. While yes, that is technically possible, but also no, that is not a very efficient way to solve this issue. In reality, you will find that the just mentioned approach leads to the uphill battle that in cloudy or rainy conditions it will be very hard to feed the battery and then feed the fridge with that battery over the night. Instead of relying on the battery to feed the fridge overnight, it is much smarter to use thermal mass. The concept behind that is rather simple. We fill the fridge with as much thermal mass as we can. We run the fridge during the day when the sun is out and is hitting the solar panels. And we use an electric timer to make sure that the fridge does not run in the night. That sounds quite interesting, you say. Well, glad you came here. Let me show you some math. For the example calculations, I will be using a standard 110 liter fridge. Our well-isolated fridge loses about 15 to 20 watts of energy when the ambient temperature is around 22 Celsius. We assume that our fridge cools down to about 4 degrees Celsius. And we also do not want our fridge to in the process heat up to more than 9 degrees Celsius. The 15 to 20 watt loss ratio means in a 12-hour period we lose about 864,000 joules of energy. If we look at the formula to calculate the energy, one of the variables that is still missing there is the specific heat. For this we will assume water. Water has a specific heat of around 4,184 joules per kilogram per degree Celsius. The other variable is the temperature difference that we want to work with. As we want to work with a 5 degrees Celsius temperature difference, that is our number. Thanks to the magic of computing, we get a nice number of 41.3 kilograms. So, for our standard 110 liter fridge, that means about 38% of the volume needs to be filled with thermal mass that has about the properties of water. Alright, now enough of the numbers, let's get back to the reality of things. At first glance, that 38% might sound a lot. However, keep in mind that of course everything you pack into the fridge also counts as thermal mass. What that basically means is all you have to do is prepare some bottled water and make sure that there is no air pockets in the fridge and reduce those as much as possible by putting your bottled water. As you can see on my fridge layout, it does help to be a bit smart where you position these. You can see I packed a lot of thermal mass in the door area, a lot of thermal mass in the bottom, and the thermal mass around the food objects I want to have cold. For the freezer section of the fridge, the same concept applies. The thermal mass here is these blue packs that contain water. By distributing it evenly, I make sure that there is no warm spots forming up over the night. The numbers for the thermal mass requirements get a lot more better once you go under 0 degrees Celsius. At about minus 5 degrees Celsius, you only need about 20% of the volume in thermal mass. However, to increase efficiency, one should always try to minimize air pockets and fill those up with thermal mass. What we furthermore need to make this all work is a simple electric timer. I will be showing you mine and how it's set up. These devices cost around 3 to 4 euros. They are also really simple to set up. It does not take longer than a minute and you're ready to go. Of course, this method can be improved a lot by improving the isolation of the fridge. You can add simple polystyrene plates to the side and the top of the fridge to increase its isolation properties. However, keep in mind to never block the heat exchanger of the fridge in the back or the bottom, depending on your model. Let's summarize things a bit. If you want to be on the safe side and don't do any math, Fill about half of your fridge or freezer with thermal mass and you should be fine for 12 to 16 hour cut of power. Make sure you have sufficient solar input so you can run the fridge and charge the batteries even in bad conditions. And last but not least, run the fridge or freezer on an electric timer. Make sure that timer is on during the sun hours and off during the night. Quite simple. If you have any ideas, questions, input or anything alike, don't be shy, hop on our Discord. I'm putting the link down there in the description. With this, thanks you all for watching. Leave a like, comment or subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Have a great day and make it count.